Finland Crusader here. So this is part 2 of the Ford Model A pickup truck engine conversion. And probably the most of this time round will be the radius rods, what would have been the A-frame, now been split, and you have a radius rod on each side. So it would be about the jointing up of the ball joint and making the brackets to fit to the chassis and so forth. So we're moving on steady. I mean, bearing in mind we're only doing 2 days a week on it. But yeah, sit back and enjoy, and we'll catch you on the next one. The first picture is of the adapter plate. The next 3 pictures are of the UJ being machined out and the sleeve inserted and welded up so as it will fit the gearbox. And the last one is of the distributor being machined to fit the V8. Right, so today, the weekend, we're doing Model A parts. Reserve the week for the tractors and the weekend for the Model A. So what I've got here is the piece that I've machined up to fit in the end of the radius arm, or if you like, what would have been the A-frame, but now sort of becomes the radius rod. And now tapping this out for the new ball joints. So I'll crack on and tap this out, and then I'll bring you back. Okay then, so I've got that tapped out now for the new ball joint look. And what I will do, I will make a all the way in. But what I'll do, I'll just wind it halfway out, so I've got equal distance moving or out to say for adjustment like. But so basically that's got to fit in the A-frame rod, which is now becomes our radius rod, and this is going to fit to the side of the chassis. The brushes will come on. But so yeah, you see what I've done there, and I'll get under the truck and I'll show you again. Okay, so I've got the axle set around about 6 degrees, and I think the limit is like sort of 6 to 8. So we'll set off at 6 and see how it goes. And hot rod boys will put a drop leg down from the chassis to pick up, this rod, which is part of the original A-frame. So that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that if it's hot rod, but I don't really want this to be a hot rod. I just want to keep it stock because I just like the look of it as it is. So the idea is I'll just take the pressure off of that, just so it catches up with the other side, and from the chassis down to the centre of that look is about 7 inches. And I've just got to allow myself, like the depth of that ball joint is about 1.5 inches. Yeah, it's about 1.5 inches, that is. So you're looking about 3/4. So that's around about 7. We'll set 3/4 off, shall we? I think that'd be about right. Probably, I'll probably say 1 inch. I'll sooner give myself enough room. 1 inch, I'll take 1 inch off. So basically I've got to shove that up. .6 inches, which just seems like a lot. 7 to the centre. So if we do it on the grease nipple, so get the grease nipple in the middle, it's about 7, not depending how you just turn the rod, but it's about 7. You've got 3 allowing an inch for that, probably not enough. 1.25 inches. A bit of clearance moving up and down. 1.75 inches I'm going to give that. 1.75 inches. So it's 5 1/4. I'm going to bend that, warm that up, make a jig on the bench and bend it up 5 inches. It's very good, 5 1/4 inches, that's it, 5 1/4 inches. Also, what they do on that end of the rod, they cut and shut. It may be the way to go, but I'm going to warm it and bend it. And I mean, after all, I mean, I used to warm the red front axles up and bend them. I'll warm it up and bend it, but what I will do, I'll set up a thing on the bench, so guys, when not, you know, I'll bend it on, I'm bending exactly to the same stop. Plus it'll be a jig for when I put the other one in to do the same thing. Anyway, while I'm under here, clutch pedal shaft. Right, the clutch pedal shaft on the A box was fastened to the gearbox. You know, there was a cast boss and it had a shaft in it. I can't do that, this gearbox hasn't got it. So the plate you're looking at there was the transmission plate, pressed in plate, that housed like what could have been a PTO. Anyway, I've utilised that with a 6mm plate and gone right up, and a little angle bracket at the top just to take any like whip out of it, and welded my shaft to it. So now all my pedals and everything are all back in line in the bulkhead where they should be. I know I've got split pins and bits and pieces to put in, Mum. It's not finished, it's all got to come off because I need to put a washer in there. So so that's all good. All my pedals and everything are in the right place. I'm pleased with that because I didn't want to alter anything, you know, without having to really, you know, forced having to alter it. And then I've got to do a similar plate on this side for my handbrake bracket, which I haven't got round to looking at, sorting out yet. I just wanted to get the front axle yoked up and fastened up so guys I could, well, one thing, I could shove it on and off the ramp if I have to do, like, you know, if I get an emergency. So, yeah, so that's what we're at now. I'm going to get the well, this radius rod is off. I'll just put it back on just so we can do this measurement. And I'll make a jig on the bench and we'll have a go at bending the radius rods. That's my aim for this weekend anyway. Okay, and so that's your rod ends, all machined up, drilled and tapped out, all ready to go. All I've got to do now is just make the locking nut. Okay, so that's the units complete now. With the locking nuts that I've just made, they were 14mm metric, and I've drilled them out and tapped them out to my 16mm, and it's 16 by 16 this tap, which is unique to that ball joint. So so yeah, that's pretty much sorted there. Now I'm going to set to and get the radius rod off and start jigging up on the bench. Okay, so I decided to cut and shut this once I've got my stops and everything set up. I've just made a solid piece to the bench, so when I bolt through with tapered nuts and tapered the head, so everything sits nice and square and solid. But when I took it to bits, unpicked the weld to have a look, expecting to find a spigot, and it would look like, well, some sort of insert, but it's got a bit of a weld in it. This was just laid inside that hub. I think it was on this side, and I'm just chiseling the other bit out there now. And it's smaller than what was in there. That's just as I've cut it off, you see, look. So it's some sort of insert to line it up. I fully expected that for this being a cast piece that it got a spigot on it, but it hadn't. But anyway, so that's that bit out, and what do I do with my screwdriver? It's here, and that's the other bit. Might be that when they welded it, it's the remnants of the weld melting right through it, which but it's certainly got and it's well rusted, like. So I mean, probably what was in there has rotted away. I mean, she's registered as 28, although it's got a 30s cab on, but yeah, strange. Not what I was expecting anyway. I expected it to be a spigot in the cast piece, but anyway, it isn't. So I'm just squaring this up there, and I'll cut me a bit of taper on there, and we'll get it to be where I want it. I'll bring you back in a bit. Right, just picked the rod up and rattled it around, and I had another bit fall out, look. Almost looks like, you know, it's a cast piece. So whether the spigot had rotted off, but it's got like the weld on the inside there. So whether that's penetrated through, or what, I don't know. But there are several bits there, sort of creating the spigot like that, look. This was just another piece that was on top of one of them, but so what I'm going to do, I've got my mine's all set up where I want it. I've got a little groove there, such that fillet weld, when I first marked it out and got it a bit too wide. But anyway, I'm going to make myself a spigot. Just find a bit of steel and grind it all up and just fit in there and leave a gap and weld right through solid into the spigot. Then the job will be a good one. So I'll bring you back when there's more to show. Okay then, so I made a spigot to fit in there, look. And it'll go in there. It just wants tapping up and it'll go tight in, but not going to tap it up just yet. So other than just fitting that and tack welding it together and go and try it, make sure the angle's right. And if it is, we'll weld it up. All's a good one. One radius rod. Okay, so we're together now and we're tacked up. So I'm just going to go and offer it up, just make sure we've got the right crank. Okay, and so I've got my mounting brackets made for my ball joint to fit in, and basically have a fit in there like that. And then this cutout, what you see like that, will sit on the underside of the chassis rail with this part of the lug up on the outside of the chassis with a bolt through it, which I've got to put on the chassis and mark out. The bolt hole's already in the chassis, so and then I shall weld along these edges, and then these are the bosses that are actually off like swivel housings and the like that this joint fits, and I've cut them off, machined them up, so boys I can fit them in here and then set to and you know, weld them in. And they're spigoted in the other side, so the job will be a good one. It's equally as strong as the chassis, so you can't do no more than that. So next job then is to take the brackets across to the chassis and mark out for the bolt hole that's got to go in there, and the same on this other one. So I'll bring you back when there's more to show. Okay, so that's the first radius rod on and in position. We've got the bolt in, which is right up behind there, which you probably can't see, and and then if everything's all in order and we're at sort of around about 6 to 8 degrees, well then you know, we'll weld this bracket on. So we've got set 2 now and transfer this bolt hole in the other side, and then I'll bring you back. Okay then, so I decided to cut this one this time just in front of the weld, and lo and behold it left a bit of a spigot behind, so I must have cut the other one in half, but it's a bit of a rum spigot, because I don't know whether you can see, but it's like got 2 welds inside it, and if we look at it from the other way, there, 2 welds inside that one. So whether the casting was a bit thin, somebody was clever and they retrieved it, and by just welding a bit in there to keep it. But anyway, whatever, it's a spigot, so I'll use it and weld it back as it was, once I've got it cranked to the right position, of course. So yeah, I'll get cut up and sorted out and I'll bring you back. Right, so I've got the chassis drilled and got the other bracket on, and got the radius rod on, sorted. Nuts are on both sides. And that's the other side bracket, look. I'll finalise them once I'm 100% sure that everything's, when we've moved it back and forwards a bit and just check the degrees on the axle. And at the moment on this side you see where I've had heat the bloody axle up to get the kingpin out. But yeah, so I've got 8 degrees on this side. And on this side it's reading about 6, so obviously there's a slight twist in the axle somewhere, but that's as near as I can get that, and it'll have to do. We'll see how she performs when we go up the road. I can't see it being a problem myself, but yeah, so we're sort of getting there now. I mean, at least the axle's all anchored up, and I think the next big thing now is to sort this steering box out, pop the starter in, and then have a look, see what we're going to do about the steering. It's got to go in that bloody hole there, look. We know it's going to hit the engine as it stands as stock, but I've got an idea for it, so I'm going to get it out and get my head around it and see what's going to happen, because I think that's the next move now. Get it to steer, got the axle all lined up, the radius rod's on, albeit I've got to, put my shock absorber bracket link arm on and split pins and goodness knows what else in there. But before I do that, I've got to take the radius rods off to weld them, and I'm going to rebush the perch brackets. so they're only all tacked together now, just so I can put weight on the axle. So yeah, I mean, there's always going to be jobs to do, but while it's in bits, it'd be as well just to set to and make some bushes up for the perch brackets and the spring as well, spring eyes, and that'll just help to get things where they should be. So we're nearly there on that end. There ain't a lot more we can do. So I am going to set about the steering box next. I'm pretty much made up my mind on that. So I'll catch you on the next one.